Hey guys, Ryan here. Here I'm doing it's a vacuum related video. It's not really a vacuum video itself because I don't have machines here, but I figured doing something that's related to the topic. Tonight I'm doing a topic on the cleaning effectiveness per amp rating, and I know that's probably something that not a lot of people would know, and probably would be bored falling asleep. So I'll try to make this as entertaining as possible. So if you ever heard of cleaning effectiveness per amp rating, that was a rating that was used by Hoover back in the probably very late 80s, maybe early 90s. I think early 90s, because I used to have a Hoover. Well, I used to use a Hoover Elite vacuum. It's no longer. Well, it's on YouTube. I don't have, that. Anyway, I used to use a Hoover Elite upright back when I had an apartment in Hanover, back on Pine Street. I did a video on that, and I believe that was for ladies, but it didn't have a clean effectiveness per amp rating. So I'm pretty sure this was the 90s. So basically, back to history of the clean effectiveness per amp rating system was that Hoover was looking for a way to advertise the cleaning power of their vacuums. Because back then, in the 90s, amps was a big thing. Well, mainly for amps, Eureka was the big company that made a lot of advertisements boasting its amps. So it's almost like they were walk around acting like they're a big stud, in the vacuum market, claiming that they had, tremendous cleaning power, and that apparently 7 amps or 8 amps of power, 9 amps of power, 10 or even 12, which was the max, indicated better cleaning. So really made people think that the more amps a vacuum had, the better we clean, which is a load of bull. Because, well, for us vacuum collectors, vacuum enthusiasts, nerds, geeks, whatever you want to call us, we actually know that amps don't really mean shit. A Kirby vacuum, which usually uses maybe 6 amps, maybe 7 amps, sometimes 8, but never really above 10, like hovering around 7 or 8, can outperform an upright using 12 amps. So I'm on the Ristenbatt Vacuum's website, in their page about facts about vacs. Oh, that's a clever rhyme. And here I have the article, and so I'll keep it steady. So if you want to read it, you can. I probably not really going to read it because maybe we sold to you, the viewers, because I'm pretty sure you're pretty literate. If you want to take time, if you actually want to pause this video or something like that to read it deep, you can. But anyway, let me see if I can. Yeah, so it says, as it says in this article, back then somebody from Hoover decided to have. Well, let me back up here. I'm just reading this paragraph, make sure I get this right. Vacuum cleaner industry has established a standard for measuring effectiveness of vacuum cleaner, although I have never seen those ratings published. Yeah, neither have I. Though that would be really nice to see for consumers, be able to see how effective a vacuum cleaner is at cleaning your carpets. And if they would actually have those ratings, people would could make much better decisions on what vacuum to buy. So anyway, back then, Hoover was competing with, of course, Dirtdale, Bissell, Eureka. Eureka obviously was the big one, was the big brand that boasted its amps rating. So Hoover needed to find a way to to show its cleaning effectiveness of their vacuums using numbers as well. For Hoover, it's different because their vacuums back in the 90s never really used a whole lot of amperage. Most time it was between 6 to 7 amps. So somebody back in the early 90s came up with the idea to take the effectiveness rating that the vacuum cleaner industry apparently uses or had established, which we don't know what that is because they never showed us, to either us vacuum enthusiasts or even the consumers. So they said, and divide it by the amps to have what would be called an efficiency rating. According to this article, it says, quote, "This was a step beyond industry standard and resulted in a relatively meaningless specification." Basically means it was marketing bullshit. It's just a way for Hoover to say, hey, we're powerful too. It's an effective rating to compare with the old with the Hoover vacuums back at that time, like the Elites and Dimensions and Dirt Finders and Power Drives. But trying to compare it with, say, a Eureka really did nothing. It was pretty much meaningless. Didn't really have any value comparing a Hoover Power Drive with a rating, clean effectiveness per amp rating of 22 versus a Eureka Excalibur, which had boasted 12 amps. You're not going to get much information which vacuum's better. So back then, as you can see, as I'll show you, as you can see here, and back when they introduced, well, oh good God, that's even shit. That's freaking ugly. You can barely see that. All right, here, I'll zoom it in. So back when they introduced this rating, this is kind of what they showed to customers. It says cleaning effectiveness divided by amps equals 18. So again, I'm just going off the top of my head. I don't really have a script here, so I apologize if this sounds like shit. If the way I'm explaining it is crap, but I'm just going off the top of my head. That's how I always do these videos. So yes, when they first displayed this rating, a lot of shoppers, a lot of consumers got confused. They got confused because initially, when Hoover started using this specification, it was they didn't display the amperage rating in the literature or the vacuums. Yes, because according to Ristenbatt Vacuum, it says, quote, "Hoover's manner of displaying this effectiveness rating caused a great deal of confusion among the shoppers. Initially, when they started using the specification, it was displayed without the amperage rating in the literature and at conspicuous places on their vacuum cleaners. You had to locate the small specifications plate near the bottom of the cleaner to determine the cleaner's amperage rating," unquote. And again, it was shown in this format. Of course, I can read it as cleaning effects per amp equals 18, but at first glance, for a customer, if for a customer that might have been looking for a vacuum or shopping for a vacuum, it gave the impression that the vacuum used 18 amps. Now, you might think that sounds silly because it doesn't say 18 amps. It says clean effectiveness amp 18, or divided by amps 18. It was confused, but again, if for quick glance, for a customer that really doesn't know a whole lot about vacuums, and they're just looking for to buy a vacuum back then, they might get confused by it. They might think it says 18 amps, which of course no vacuum is going to have 18 amps. Believe me, you try using, if there was a vacuum that was 18 amps and you tried running it, either you would blow the circuit or you'd have the lights really dim. And of course, trying to run anything else on that circuit, you're definitely going to blow a circuit. Or at least trip it. And of course, to add to that confusion, they displayed that number in a very large font, and I'm just reading a little bit off the Ristenbatt to explain this, in a similar manner to how competing manufacturers displayed their amperage ratings. I guess you say unquote. Here's the thing. Most, like for example, Hoover's didn't use 18 amps. The actual amp ratings was only 7.2 or 7 or 7.8. So they kind of hover around between 7 and 7.8 amps. So apparently Hoover got some challenges in court. Maybe people filed lawsuits saying, hey, wait a minute, I was under pressure the vacuum was 18 amps. What the hell? So Hoover came up with, kind of redid the display for clean effectiveness per amp using this. Obviously, where you can see it says clean effectiveness per amp equals 22, and on the bottom it said, for that byline, it says uses only 7.8 amps. Which that probably, and I bet you that came from literature for Hoover Power Drive Supreme, because that's the only vacuum that I know of that came from Hoover in the early 90s that had a clean effectiveness per amp rating of 22 and only used 7.8 amps. So yeah, so obviously you can see, like you see on the top here, clean effectiveness rating for the top, and you can see for the bottom, there's a big difference. Excuse me. And so Hoover used like the clean effectiveness rating display on the bottom to try to clear up any confusion. Try to show, no, it's not 22 amps. It's only 7.8 amps. But its clean effectiveness is 22. Again, marketing fluff. Well, apparently far too many, even at this change, apparently, according to Ristenbatt, far too many shoppers were still being confused and misled by Hoover's clean effectiveness per amp efficiency ratings, which are displayed prominently on their vacuum cleaners. How? How were they confused? I mean, come on, it says their clean effectiveness per amp equals 22. It uses only 7.8 amps. So obviously, I can see it clear as day. Oh, so this only has a 7.8 amp motor, but, obviously, I guess it must clean really well for a Hoover. Versus this, where people thought, oh, it's 18 amps, which it wasn't. But of course, it didn't say what amps it was. So, to try to clear up the confusion, Hoover added a sticker to the side of the uprights to explain what the rating system is. I'll read it here. It said, quote, the clean effectiveness per amp number is not an amp rating. No shit, Sherlock. Amps do not measure dirt removal, only the amount of electricity used. Duh. Cleaning effectiveness per amp is determined by dividing this model's cleaning effectiveness by its amps. See, again, that's probably what they tried to display or convey in the first iteration of the cleaning effectiveness per amp rating. Obviously, it looks like a division formula. Cleaning effectiveness divided by amps equals X. X being whatever number it is that vacuum had. Here's what cleaning effectiveness is defined, and I'm not going to blame you if you're confused of what it means, because probably I'm not going to understand what it means either. But here it goes. Cleaning effectiveness is the percent value obtained from dividing the geometric mean meaning average, of the amount of embedded carpet dirt removed in testing under ASTM test method F60889, which is some test. I really don't know what that ASTM test method is. I think that's basically a test method where they test a vacuum of how much dirt it can pick up. Something like that. Okay. Anyway, it says the geometric mean of the amount of beta tester testing under ASTM blah 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 by the value 29. The geometric mean of the midpoints of the percentage dirt pickup scale selected by Hoover as a reference for its rating system. If you do not understand what that means, you're not alone. I don't even understand what that means either. Even I try to read this. The value 29. Geometric mean of the midpoints of the... Okay. So I'm trying to think here. Well, I'll think. Okay, what I'm trying to figure out is, wonder how you can determine what the geometric average of the dirt amount is. Okay, so basically, well, actually, let me see that here. I know, so I apologize if I'm going on or for going multiple directions at once. Try to make it sound entertaining. So, say power drive has the rating of 22. So, a pair of geometric means is 638. I don't even know what... Okay. Well, it didn't work very well because I don't even know what 638 is. If it's ounces, whatever. Anyway. So if you don't understand what that means, I don't blame you. I don't either. The rating of 12 amps is the maximum permitted for any appliance which plugs into a standard electrical outlet. Oh, really? Well, explain that to, those plug-in heaters which uses more than 12 amps, like 13 or 15. So, fast forward a couple years later, Hoover introduced their Wintel upright series machines, and they had introduced yet another kind of rating system for their vacuums. Now, at this point, all the Wintel uprights in that series used 12 amps, pretty much maximum number. So obviously this number wasn't going, I guess maybe they thought this number, the cleaning effectiveness per amp rating, wasn't going to do jack squat. So somebody, apparently a Hoover company, had this really genius idea. I guess somebody there at the meeting came up with the idea, what can we do? What rating system should we use to convey performance of our wind tunnels? I got an idea, let's use Mach. Yeah, if you remember, if you ever see an old Hoover wind tunnel, and I'm going to say old like mid, late 90s Hoover wind tunnels, not the ones that use this rating system. I'll explain. I'll get to that rating in a little bit. Some of the older wind tunnels, used a Mach rating on their vacuums. Like it would say Mach, Mach 4.3. I'm just pulling that up. I'm just making it as an example. Well, the Mach rating on the Hoover wind tunnels really didn't indicate the performance of the machine. The Mach numbers on the old Hoover wind tunnels vacuums only represented how many deluxe features were on their various wind tunnel upright models. It had nothing to do with clean performance or power ratings because, again, all the Hoover wind tunnel uprights use 12 amps and they clean the same. So the Mach ratings basically didn't mean jack shit. So, I guess somebody else at Hoover came up with a brilliant idea to use the Hoover cleaning performance rating system. And here's an example. You might see this on that. You probably have seen this on some of the later model Hoovers. You might see them today on some Hoovers. You might find a Goodwill or a Community, or maybe you have one. Excuse me, my throat's kind of tickly. They use this kind of performance rating on some of the Hoover models that are made in the 2000s. I've seen a couple machine Hoovers that use this rating. For example, this one says it has a 12-8 motor, but it says the Hoover cleaning performance is 30. So it's actually quite similar to the cleaning effectiveness per amp rating. Of course, where this rating was effective for the older Hoover models, which used like 40 amps, or not 40 amps, I'm sorry, used 7.8 amps. I don't know where 40 came from. Anyway, so let me repeat that. Let me try that again. So while this rating system, the clean performance rating system, is similar to the clean effectiveness per amp rating, where for those machines who use less amps, it wouldn't work jack shit for a vacuum with 12 amps. So they came up with a different clean performance rating system. That probably confuses people. What the hell does 30 mean? It says here's an article quote, to help prospective customers to better understand this rating. Hoover describes it in the boxes as follows. Here's the Hoover Clean Performance quote. This Hoover Clean Performance system is for comparing the relative progressive performance. What the fuck does that mean? Of Hoover uprights only, and not for comparison with any other brands. Oh, goody. The majority of this rating is based upon the American Society for Testing of Materials Carpet Cleaning Effectiveness Rating, which is ASTM Test F608. The performance factors include hose power, surface litter cleaning, hard floor cleaning, edge cleaning, cleaning width, and air filtration. So I guess if you're shopping for Hoover machines in the early 2000s, excuse me, Obviously, the higher the number for that vacuum, the better. Okay, so that's kind of cool. Oh, apparently this Ristenbatt Vacuum website or people, they're one of the local stores in Susquehanna Valley. Anyway, so for example, that's the rating you would probably see like in the early 2000s. Um, you would see it like on the newer wind tunnel vacuums that came out in the early 2000s. They had still sold the Elite upright back in the early 2000s at that point. And I remember one who really, that used this clean performance rating. And it was a 12 amp motor. It still had a clean effectiveness rating of, I think, 16. So it's pretty much the same rating as it had before, at least before when they had 7.8 or 7 amp motors. So basically, the Hoover Clean Performance, again, kind of did the same purpose as the clean effectiveness per amp rating. The higher that number, either for this, like the higher the number here, the number above the 12 amp motor byline, the better it would clean. So Hoover vacuum that had a clean performance of 30 would do better than a Hoover with a clean performance rating of, say, 27. So that's pretty much my rambling of the clean performance per amp rating history, and I guess a little bit of history of the Hoover clean performance system. I hope you enjoyed this video. Again, I apologize if it sounds like I was going off in different directions in this video or rambling on. As I said, I don't really use scripts in this video because I don't really have time to make scripts. But I'll do more vacuum videos and vacuum related videos in the near future. I should have a video of my Bissell carpet shampooer in action once I get the parts. They still have not arrived yet. Apparently, the order is still being processed, but I will do a video on that as soon as possible. So feel free to rate, feel free to subscribe for more videos. I'll do more vacuum videos and maybe vacuum related videos or videos based on that topic of vacuums in the near future. Feel free to give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed this video. If you didn't, sorry. But anyway, I'm gonna go watch some YouTube videos. But until then, see you next time, and hopefully you have a nice weekend.